Hello guys, I'm on my iPad here at home, which is why you don't see me, you just kind of see this screen. And also you're going to hear some like clicking. That's just my stylus when I circle things and write on things. So we're going to go ahead and start Unit 2 of Unit 2 of Economics. And our whole unit focuses on microeconomics. So microeconomics is small. Micro means small. And basically this is the businesses and individual decisions and how they impact the economy. It's not large groups like the government and how they impact the economy. That's called macro. This is looking at small decisions, small changes, and how they impact supply and demand and other parts of the economy, okay? Before we begin learning about actual microeconomics, we have to know some shorthand, and shorthand just means instead of writing out the whole thing, we write a little bit of it. So economists use abbreviations to make the task of graphing faster. We're going to be graphing a lot this unit, and you need to know what these things mean and the shorthand for it so that you can graph quickly as well, and you understand what my graphs mean. So let's go over what each of these things are. This symbol, the first one, is called a delta. It's literally just a triangle, and it means that there's a change or a change in. So I could say there's a change in demand, okay? And the delta just means change, and it's way faster, okay? D equals demand, and demand is the consumer desire for goods and services. How much you want something, how much someone wants something. Sorry, my chair's creaking over here. So D, we shorten it by saying demand. So we could take a pretty long sentence on a graph, or long something on a graph, a change in demand, and just say change in D, okay? Supply is the same thing. Supply is shorthanded with an S, and it means that firms, which is another word for businesses, produce something. They supply things for us to buy. We demand things, businesses supply things. For example, I am supplying you an education right now. You are demanding learning, even if you don't want to demand learning. Here you are, okay? Another thing that we put on graphs is price and quantity, and we label those with a P and a Q. Price, you should know what that means, right? It's how much an item costs for us to buy. Quantity is a little bit different. We got to think about the way that producers think and the way that we think. So there's two different types of quantity. Quantity could be how much there is of a good or service, how much is supplied. So that would be quantity supplied, QS, how much a business makes of something for us to buy. Then there's another type of quantity called quantity demanded, and that is the amount of desire for that good. That would be QD, quantity demanded. And that is how much people want of something. So the quantity supplied of milk might be greater than the quantity demanded, and that would mean there's a lot of milk on the shelves at the store, okay? The quantity supplied of iPads might be less than the quantity demanded, meaning that there's a shortage. There's not enough iPads for all the people that want to buy iPads, okay? So you can think about it in that way, and I'm going to show you guys on a graph. But before we actually start doing the physical act of graphing, I want to teach you some graphing rules. And as you can see, I've already made a mistake. So, just like when we're graphing in math class, we always label our axes, okay? So this is the y-axis. It is the vertical axis. And on most of the graphs that we'll be doing in class, the vertical axis is going to be price, how much items cost. This is the x-axis. On most of the graphs that we'll be doing in class, it's the horizontal one. This will be quantity. So P and Q. P and Q, okay? Then, on most of the graphs we'll be doing this unit, there will be a supply and a demand curve. Demand is downward sloping. That's how I remember it. Demand goes down. Demand doesn't go down, but the demand curve goes down. Demand is downward sloping, DD. And that is right here. So we would draw the demand curve with little arrows because it's forever and ever amen, just like in math class. So we learn about graphs like that. And we label it with a D. Okay, so draw the demand curve and label it with a D. Okay, supply is upward sloping. So supply is this one. Little arrows, and then label it with an S so that the reader of the graph knows, okay? So we've got price, quantity, supply, demand. And that's what a basic graph looks like. Where price meets quantity is called equilibrium. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later. But essentially, we always draw equilibrium as well. Boop, boop. It's where the two lines cross, and you just do dotted lines over and down. And that'll show you what the price is and what the quantity is. And we label that with P and Q. But here's something that we're going to be doing in class. It doesn't just stay like this. Boop, 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 boop. It moves. Different curves move. Sometimes multiple curves move at one time. We're not going to get that complicated in this class, but we are going to be moving curves. So when a curve moves, when I say curve, I know it's a straight line. So you're like, what do you mean by curve? But they call supply and demand the supply and demand curves. So just keep that in mind, okay? So if this supply curve, this supply line shifts, it creates a new supply line, okay? We label the new one with what's called sub numbers. So you see I moved the curve over. I showed you that it moved. I drew the new curve, and then I labeled it with a new name. I labeled it S sub 1. If I drew another one, I would label that S sub 2, right? And you just go in order, up, 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 up. Maybe it would be up here, and I'd have to do this, S sub 2, okay? So when a curve moves, that means that this is no longer the place where the two curves meet. In fact, here's the demand curve. Here's the supply curve. There's a new place where they meet. So price and quantity have moved as well. Price went down. Quantity went up and over. Well, just over, but it's increasing, right? We label that with arrows, and then we have to relabel our new price and our new quantity. We label with sub numbers again. P sub 1 and Q sub 1. A new price and a new quantity. So you see how we went from a very simple graph here, this, and then to all of a sudden we're shifting over this way, and then we got to shift down this way and shift down that way. That's why we use arrows, so that the reader of the graph, which will sometimes be me and sometimes be you, know which was the original line, the original curve, and which one was the new one. Which one was the original price and quantity equilibrium, and which one is the new one. Okay? All right.